What's up, everybody? I'm gonna get that rock music going on. I feel like you and I are rock guys. I don't know.
I grew up a lot of punk rock and
It's another edition of the Superstars Podcast. I am here with a guy that listen. The good news is I don't know that much about you, so I'm gonna learn a lot at this show here today, and I'm super psyched. I have Russel Kubach. He is out of Opus Elite Real Estate, Philly born and bred. I love Philly guys, man. Philly guys are different people. They bring flavor. That's what I love about Philly guys. So thanks for coming on, man.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, brother. So let's get deep early, man. So we're gonna get to real estate. So I always tell people it's 50% you and then 50% real estate. And I want to talk about everything you're doing. You're seeing a lot of success. I'm going to peel back the onion and figure all that good stuff out and figure out why that is. And I'm relentless with my questions. So I hope that doesn't bother you.
Look, in this business, it's nothing but questions. So to sit down and have a conversation, look, I'm expecting it. And I know you all for this. So, look, nothing I didn't expect.
That's a good answer. Listen, I love it, bro. All right. So tell us, I know Philadelphia, but for people that don't know Philadelphia, give us the scene. Where are you from? Mom, dad, siblings. What was life like growing up as baby Russ? Give us the whole thing.
Baby Russ, wow. Right, so, I grew up in the Kensington section of Philadelphia. Kensington, real Kensington, not, old Kensington, West Kensington, these new gentrified Kensington.
Does that piss you off, by the way? Do those fluffy terms piss you off?
It used to, but it's a clear-cut indicator that somebody moved to the area.
Yeah.
And look, the property value's going up. There's a lot of great things going on in those areas. Maybe yesteryear I would let it get to me a little bit more just because I had so much neighborhood pride. But now you get older and you're not as much of a hard head. You just let it go. But you can pick up on whether or not somebody's genuinely from Philadelphia or not.
So paint the picture. So Philadelphia is the city of neighborhoods, right? That's actually what it's coined. So For someone that's never been to Kensington, give us the picture of what it was when you grew up, and then tell us what you've seen just Kensington itself.
So I think the neighborhood itself, it instills character, that it makes you a little tougher. There's always jokes about, oh, you're from Kensington? I had no idea because you got all your teeth. It's just it was a tight-knit community. It was a no nonsense. If you got out of line, you were a kid and, you were kind of getting out of pocket, doing things that you shouldn't have. But everybody knew everybody. So you had the okay. If you saw a kid getting out of line, you could discipline him. And you got disciplined every way you could on the way home by everybody that knew you and knew about it. And then when you got home, you really got disciplined. So it really built, thick skin, to everybody, from anybody that came there. Unfortunately, as everybody knows with Kensington, there were only a few ways to get out, and you either, I tell everybody, I really shouldn't be here at this point because of everything that I've seen or had to endure. But, I have a lot of friends that either ended up in jail. I have a lot of friends that, ended up falling victim to the opioid epidemic that, it didn't just start. It's been around for decades. And, I also had a lot of people that saw the neighborhood and, those negative paths and basically said, hey, look, I'm not going to do that. They got union jobs or they went to school, so it wasn't all bad. But those people that, got out or didn't let it pull them down those negative paths, it was an uphill battle, I'm sure. It's just the way it happens. It's just the way it works. But Kensington.
Were you in a typical row house? Like, what was your setting?
Oh,
like?
yeah. I grew up at Kippen, Cambria, which is a well-known drug corner now, but it wasn't when I grew up. I mean, look, you had that element, but it wasn't as prevalent. It wasn't out in the open. You still had people coming out on Saturday mornings, turn the fire plug on, cleaning the block, scrubbing your steps.
Yeah.
And then, I make the joke that my mom was like, hey, look, we got to get out of here as things were turning. And she moved to the other side of Kensington thinking it was a whole nother world or the suburbs. 2 years later, things are, all that element is basically showing up at our doors. So
sure.
Kensington's going through a lot of changes. It's, there are certain pockets right now that are still waiting for some sort of revival, still waiting for some sort of help. But, growing up in the neighborhood, I had some really good friends, it built, as I said earlier, it built a lot of character and resilience and, where you're tough, mentally leaving that neighborhood. Physically, I'll leave that aside because nobody cares about it. But mentally, you do become tougher, or at least I know the people that I know or I've experienced, they have a little bit of an edge and they aren't as easily, bothered by certain things. They can get through a lot.
And give us the setting. Was mom and dad both present? What did mom do? Did you have siblings? Give us that whole thing.
My mother was 17 years old when she had me. And, I was, didn't really have much involvement with my father. What is this, therapy?
It's listen, you want to know the truth? At some point it builds the reason why you're gritty and a hustler. And so it's the evolution, man.
I got my tissues ready for it.
I never thought I'd make you cry, bro.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Oprah to come out. But no, my mother was 17 years old. She did the best that she could. I was fortunate enough to have, a grandfather that really wanted to step in. I got along with him. He was a retired Philly cop and an old school, Catholic type. So I come from the discipline with him where it's if he looked at you a certain way, you stopped what you were doing because, you knew that you were doing something wrong. So
was he the biggest force from a discipline perspective for you?
I would say so. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to have him until my late teens. So by that point, while I was trying to be out there, be a neighborhood knucklehead with some of my friends, knowing that he was at home really was a deterrent for me from going and like getting into trouble. Not saying that I didn't at certain pockets or certain points, but it really kind of was a guiding light.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's huge. I mean, let's be honest. That's probably a huge reason why you are what you're doing and are so disciplined and think that way. And that's a blessing. It's a blessing. It really is.
I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. And then
I got a little sister, that we constantly make jokes about our upbringing, that stare that kept you in line.
Yeah. But you know what? As much as you'll do that to people that are from the outside because they have these preconceived notions, it's still something that made you who you are. There's still a lot of positives you can build from it, right? And I'm sure there's a certain sense of pride you have, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that I go back to the old Kensington, commentary. When you're out in the neighborhoods now and you go to these bars that have been, they're completely changed, and they got these great eateries, these great bars, and I used to be in the beer business, so I spent a lot of time in these places. When you hear somebody like jokingly go, "Oh, I'm a Kenzo. I'm from West Kensington or East Kensington or Old Kensington," and you're just looking at them going, your definition and my definition are so different. You give them a pass, but I still know neighborhood knuckleheads that will like get into an argument over it. And you just got to remind them, hey man, it's not worth it. Just let it go. Those days are gone.
Yeah, for sure, man. So as you get to high school and things like that, were you a sports guy? What were you into?
Yeah, I boxed, a lot growing up, and then played football as well. I went to Mastbaum, which was right in Kensington, and everybody always makes the joke about it because it's got this famous cage on the rooftop. And we used to go up there, play basketball, hang out at lunchtime.
Really?
But everybody would go, "Oh, you guys were so wild that they have to cage you in."
But I didn't know anything about that cage. Interesting. It's on the rooftop.
It's a rooftop. They had a couple basketball courts.
Wow.
A lot of the Spanish kids that I went to school with would go up play handball on some of the walls. But it was a good way to break up the monotony of the school day and go up and just kind of be outside.
Now, is Mass Bomb a magnet school?
It's a vocational school. So
it's vocational school. Okay.
Yeah, they used to offer a lot of. I took carpentry in high school. Most of the football players did take carpentry. So it was at the end. It was your last 2 periods of the day. So it was basically hanging out with your football team and then going to practice.
Talk to me. Boxing and football are interesting. So I played football. Football, depending upon how you approached it, a lot of discipline. Obviously, the physical and mental aspect of it, right? But boxing, let's start there. Take me into that. How'd you get into that?
So, my mother got married and my stepfather owns a boxing gym.
Huh.
Look, you were always already out on the street trying to think that you were a world champion on corners.
Right.
And then getting into boxing was a big change. I remember being very young and fight because I've always been a little bit bigger. I've always spent time hanging out with, or competing with people that were older than me.
Did you start on the street? Did you start? Did you do any of that? You're not Kimbo. Did you fight Kimbo Slice?
No, not at all. No, look, I'm not saying that anybody was a tough guy, but that was the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And look, there was a lot of value to that. You don't have what you have now, where you got to worry about, whether somebody's going to pull something on you. Back then, it was if you had a disagreement, you would fist fight, you shake hands, you'd go home. And if there was an argument on the street, the parents would make you do that and then resolve it and go on about your way.
Interesting.
So no, it was more or less to get myself involved, stay active after school. Went back and forth in and out of it because I would go back and forth between boxing and football. But
what age did you start boxing?
I was probably 8, 9.
Dude, that's pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah, so when you're getting punched by 12 or 13-year-olds because you're going by weight class or size, that wakes you up pretty quick.
Yeah, no, but so it's funny, and it's the first time I've actually interviewed someone with that background. So talk to me. The boxing stuff intrigues me because it's something I never did. So how much did you train? What was the physical part of that boxing at that age?
You go up after school. It's not necessarily rigorous. It's more or less a social activity to keep you, active and not running around on the streets and, being a knucklehead. So, look, you'd go up, you'd have your routine. You'd have, there was a really good group of older guys that would, take care of the kids, give them drills, make sure that they would check in on them. How's everything going? They would, how's everything at home? And they did this for everybody. So there was a lot of really good mentors and trainers, when I was growing up. And they would do all this stuff for free just because it was part of who they are. I took value in that. I got close with some of them. I still talk to a few of them that are still living. Most of them have died off because, I'm in my 40s now. But, you go up, you'd have your routine, you're jumping rope, you're hitting the bag.
Yeah.
And then as you start to get your groundwork in, they'd start letting you spar. And that's where you realize whether or not, you're cut out for it or not. And I got a lot of real estate on my shoulders, so it's a lot harder for me to duck punches. So, that's why I'm as pretty as I am these days. I've learned to take a punch because the size of this head doesn't mean that it moves well.
Yeah, but it's interesting though, because again, very disciplined. Now you said it was your stepfather's gym.
Yeah.
Does he still have it?
It's still there. Yeah, my little brother is pretty much over there handling everything day to day. But I've been away from there for a long time. I transitioned out of that, and I just figured, hey, look, I'm going to stick with the football end of it, lifting weight. That kind of physical regimen, just lifting weights and staying in that end. I'm too I'm too old to be doing that. Although, there's a couple other gyms that run, adult programs now just to kind of get out and get physical and like work out. Like Costello's gym in Northeast Philadelphia, they do a great job. But, I boxed, off and on up until my mid 20s, late 20s. And like the last fight that I had, when I was in the beer business was this incredible setup. So I used to work closely with the Teamsters Union and a bunch of other unions, and there was this charity event. And when I was in the beer business, I worked for one of the bigger wholesalers. And oddly enough, one of our biggest competitors and one of the other bigger wholesalers, they were within 2-3 miles of each other. So we all knew each other. And this, I was mid-20s. I was working in the beer business. People knew that I boxed a little bit. They put this charity thing together. And I ended up boxing one of the Teamsters sergeant at arms. And this guy was, kind of a, butt kicker. His hands, I don't want to curse on here, but
you can curse, bro.
His hands are the size of frying pans. And, oddly enough, we boxed, and it was at the Philadelphia Armory.
Oh, wow.
Off of Southampton. And we had the largest draw and ended up pretty much headlining it. And it was one of the coolest experiences of my life. And we raised a lot of money for veterans. They're still doing it today, some variation of it. But to be at the initial one, it was one of the coolest experiences. That turnout and the fight in front of that crowd was a nice, it's a good way to say goodbye.
And how did you do, my friend?
I'm very good friends with the guy I boxed. He hits very hard, but I ended up winning.
All right, that's good, man. Good stuff.
I won't say anything bad about that guy because if I run into him now, his hands are still frying, and I've sold houses for his daughter. I got a ton of respect for the guy. The guy is an ass kicker. Yeah. He's a really good guy. So, Cookie Walker, if you're listening, you're the man.
All right, so sum up boxing for me. What, from a life perspective, did you get from it?
You know how to read people. You learn that. There's a lot of loudmouths in the world and people that like to talk, and you learn how to keep your composure. You control your emotions, your temper, and you don't let it get the best of you. You get to read a situation, and it's where I ultimately became coachable, and where I learned to learn. And
there you go.
That's something that's followed me through the years. When I went in the beer business, I had a lot of really good mentors, people that looked out for me when they really didn't have to. And I learned a lot from them. And I think that discipline, or that, ability to, not be stubborn or hard.
By the way, I'm going to cut you off mid, just so you know, if I throw them down, you can shout them out. So John McClain gave you a shout out down there.
John McClendon is my guy. We work together in the beer business. Really good guy. He knows everybody. He's the mayor of Philadelphia.
There you go.
You can walk into any bar and find that guy in the most random situations, talking to 70-year-old men at the table, or talking to 20-somethings that are arguing about some college football game or something like that. Very good guy.
So boxing's there. Talk to me about football, man. Were you like all right, so I'm gonna guess. Hold on, because I played football. You could have been an end rusher / linebacker, fullback.
I always wanted to run the ball. Or touch it, but I was better at running into people. So I ended up playing offensive guard and then defensive.
Yeah.
CYO football. Guard. There we go. CYO football, I ended up I was playing defensive end, but when I got to high school, it was it was offense and defensive line.
Dude, that's all me, man. I was at Southampton Knight. I did Southampton Knights, and then I went into high school. What did you top out at in high school? What was your heaviest?
I was 235 in high school.
303 and not pure muscle.
You were 303? Jesus. I would never guess. I had because I was able to keep my weight at that. I did have a little bit of speed.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's awesome.
And look, as you know, when you're playing guard, you gotta trap and pull a little bit.
Yeah. And so talk to me about football. Like, I know my experiences. Talk to me about football. What did you take from that?
I had, it was almost like I was destined to play for Mastbaum with the coaching staff and with the people that I had to, so I was a hard-headed kid, like everybody else in the neighborhood, and boxing kind of taught me how to be coachable. And, I come from the school where I want people to be direct. I want people to be hard on me if they have to. And, just don't pull punches, don't sugarcoat it. And I think that there's value into that. And I think we're missing a lot of that today. But my coach in high school, he was no nonsense. That was one of the guys similar to my grandfather. If he gave you a look, you needed to get back in line. You needed to get your act together. So Coach Murph at Mastbaum and all those guys, like every one of them guys will tell you the same thing. He did not play any games. It was no bullshit. So again, it's just, making yourself it's the ability to know that you don't know everything. And there's a lot for you to take in the world. And, I'll go back like that. That is the one thing that early on in my life, I probably struggled with because, it was me, aging a little bit quicker than I should have as far as maturity and taking care of yourself. Learning that I don't know everything was one of the biggest opportunities in every facet or every period in my life.
Let me tell you, it's one thing to swallow a piece of humble pie, right? But when you're growing up, literally fighting for your life because of the neighborhood you're in, right? And the surroundings and the shit that you see, right? The things, it's amazing to listen. You fell into the right activities with the right mentors. You just did.
Yeah, and look, I wasn't perfect. It didn't make me perfection, but like it was just enough of a leash to keep me from going on the other side and getting into trouble. And like when I was 17, when I was still in high school, I had a scare where I got in a little bit of trouble. And fortunately, I kept my head and I walked away from it. But it's all because of that.
Yeah. And listen, man, at the end of the day, you're not aware of it, right? You're not thinking about it at that age, but now where you are looking back on it, it's incredible mentorship. It really, and I grew up a totally different life. I really did. I was more privileged. I grew up in a Philly suburb and a nice suburb, but I had a connection to the community with a family business. I used to go into that neighborhood. I told you my family had a business at 5th and Lehigh. So I knew the neighborhood.
I was born on Lehigh Ave. I told you that.
But it's interesting because now that we're both older, we can at least appreciate, and I appreciate my upbringing. I really do. But understanding where you came from, understanding, and this isn't to pump you up. It's just say, you overcame a lot of shit, man. And if you don't know that area and you don't know what it's like and you don't understand it, it's hard to appreciate it. But things like boxing and having a stepfather that was a cop and having the football
grandfather that was a cop.
Yeah. Grandfather.
Stepfather, a whole other line of family.
Oh, sorry, grandfather. Grandfather's got all these things, incredible influences on keeping you, at least with some path, which is awesome, dude. It's awesome. It's really, really solid.
And look, I'm grateful for the experience. Everybody, hopes for the picture perfect upbringing and world, but not having that, it develops a callus where it's much more difficult to hurt somebody who is conditioned for the worst.
Totally. 100%. And that's my whole point, is that even though I grew up very differently, I can completely respect all of the things that you had in your life that have made you where you are, right? And have made you disciplined, and what the other side is like, and because you experienced it, and the fact that you came out with it the way you are makes you so much more well-rounded, is what I'm trying to get at in a positive way, Yeah. I mean, when people speak of people from Philadelphia, they don't understand certain aspects of it because they don't know it, right? There's certain things they can see or they don't see or they can really connect with. And I can connect with where you came from, but I also can connect with the things that helped you become disciplined and a stronger person, because I did the football and I had the good mentors. And that shit is powerful, man. It is powerful. It really, really is. awesome. Hats off to those guys. And we'll get into, is that something you're looking to return? Is that part of who you are? Like, is that coaching, discipline, mentorship, something you do?
I do a lot of charity work or involvement, with the community. In whatever scale I can try to give back, if there's an opportunity, I do try. 99% of the time, I'm riding coattails of Sheena Dudek because she's an absolute monster when it comes to getting involved. She is. If I could be a tenth of what she does, or do a tenth of what she does as far as community involvement, I'm grateful. It's incredible to watch her get involved, and I'm very, very lucky to be her friend and to actually be allowed to get involved with things that she does. And now that she's bringing in the girl or Haley that joined Opus, we worked together at a previous brokerage. That's the capacity that I try to give back. I'm not in a coaching capacity whatsoever yet. Maybe down the line, whatever sports team. I've had a couple people, say, hey, look, you should get involved with this football program. I'm waiting for my son to get a little bit older. He's still in that electronics phase where he really enjoys that. But because I've recognized that and I know what, boxing did for me as a kid, being coachable, I got him involved with Jack Costello's boxing gym in Northeast Philly, and he loves it. Watching him, get a boxing award that they give out to all the kids, and seeing him light up, I was like, that's kind of cool. So the next phase is I want to see how he does as far as football. But, if there's an opportunity down the line to get back and coach and all that, I would like to do that. Just business comes first,
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to listen, we're going to hit on that. I wanted to really get the flavor of you and understand you a little more. So let's get out of the Kensington stuff. Take me into the professional part of your life. So you said, was beer sales early on, or when
I was in the less than glamorous end of the beer business. So I was, there was a few roads out. The easiest road out of the neighborhood was getting a union job. So a few friends of mine and I were working at this this truck park place, and we were teenagers, and hit 21, and a friend of mine reached out and said, hey, look, we're hiring, our place is hiring for this temporary position. Do you want to come in? Went, took it. It was just a few dollars more an hour, and it ended up becoming a permanent position. I was 21 years old with a CDL, driving a beer truck, throwing kegs around. I was a child. I was a kid. But that kind of responsibility, it really it helped me grow up a little bit, and it helped me build the foundation and build a life. I had a daughter. My daughter was born at 23. So after a little bit, after my daughter was born, and I got this saying that I tell people: nothing makes you a man faster than having a little girl. That woke me up. I was still a little immature at that point, but that kind of woke me up. So I started to see that there was more to life at that point, and started to talk a little bit more with the managers of my place. I went back to school at night, so I would drive a truck during the day and go to school at night. So I would work 8-10 hours a day throwing kegs around and making deliveries, and then end up going and spending 4 hours in class.
And that was a union gig, or no? That was a union gig? What were you getting paid? I mean, listen, don't underscore the union stuff, man. Let me.
No. Look,
and I don't mean it that way by you. I don't mean specifically you. I was like, the trades are a lost art, and the idiots are people paying $100,000 a year for a degree in liberal arts. Like, sorry, I went to college, so I can say that $100,000 a year for a degree in liberal arts. Crazy. Anyway, like, what were you making back then doing stuff like that?
I mean, at top rate, which took you 3 years to get to, I think I was at like 21 an hour, but that's like
solid money.
Yeah, that at the time in like 2007, that was pretty decent.
Not bad, dude. Yeah.
I thought I was loaded. Top-notch healthcare. It was a great benefit package. The Teamsters just came off their best contract ever. So I'm still friends with a lot of the heads of the union and a lot of the union guys. They do really well. But I wanted to do more. I didn't want to just drive a truck. I didn't want to keep throwing kegs. I was getting very frustrated with, certain managerial situations. So, I decided I wanted to go back to school and see whether I can move up the chain or just find a different opportunity. So I ended up, going to school, and I got, we got a new VP in, and, him as well as the previous VP, it took a liking to me. I don't know if it was just like, hey, look, here's this lost cause of a kid. Let me bring him in and see if I can build him up. But they both stepped in, as well as a few other people, and really lent themselves to me and became a great mentor.
Dude, there you go. You hit mentor after mentor after. It's amazing. It really is.
I mean, look, if they're listening, Tom Maluski, Ron Ward, totally grateful.
Yeah.
So look, they were great, and an opportunity never arose. And I had a hard conversation where I had an opportunity to go do project management for another company, and they sat me aside, and I said, "Hey, look, I have this opportunity. What do you think?" And the VP basically went, "It's irresponsible of me to tell you to stay here when this opportunity is here to help build you up."
That's a solid dude right there.
I left for a year, went and got my, learned how to manage, did all that. And then an opportunity came about a year later where they were like, hey, look, we have this opening. Do you want it? And came back, worked with them for a few years, built my skill set. And one of our direct competitors, the guy that I boxed became like a director of operations position became available. And I went over there. So it was a full circle moment, to get that position. Did very well, worked with a lot of really great guys at both places. I was the head guy over at, the next place. And unfortunately, I told everybody I would die in that chair. Like, I loved the job and the business that much. But unfortunately, it was owned by a family that had a lot of family drama that, carried over into the day-to-day operation. But fortunately, during those times, regardless of that, we, at both places, we were in charge of the sales and service of some of the biggest brands in the world. Wow. And, pretty much everything from all these upstart craft beers to every major brand in the world, with exception to, the Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, or, InBev products now. So it was a lot of good experience learning all that. And, you're dealing with hundreds, if not thousands, of retailers on a daily or a monthly basis. And, you're dealing with anybody from 50 to 100 people that are direct reports to you. So you're managing all of these issues and all of these needs, and everybody's got their own agenda or individual needs on a daily basis. So it's a large scale to manage all that. So, when it was time to leave and, go out on my own, I figured this is going to translate really well. And it has, where, you can manage all of these obstacles and all of these, moving parts when you're, at such a grand level, and then move it down and like scale it to an individual or a family level. It just makes it so much easier to handle any of the issues that may arise during a real estate transaction. I've had a couple partners of mine or colleagues go, why aren't you ever rattled? Why doesn't this bother you? And it's exactly because of my experience and, dealing with so many problems on such a grand scale. Something like this, I mean, if there's a problem, it's simple, fix it, find the solution. Getting nervous or, letting it get to you, it's not going to fix the problem.
So what's your personality like when you decide you want to get into management and sales and all these? Are you as sociable? Are you as friendly? What were you like? Were you the same person you are now?
So I have always had the same communication style. Am I a little more easygoing? Absolutely. When I was in the beer business, when you're dealing with a lot of people that are, working for you, they have their own idea of what their job should be, whether they're right or wrong. When you're dealing with retailers, it's their business, they're business owners. So they want everything that, works to their favor. There is no balance to it. And understandably so. I mean, it's their money. In my position, I was the guy that they brought in to have difficult conversations and make sure that, there was balance to it, so Sometimes I would have to be a little more assertive. Sometimes it was an easier solution, and we could just resolve it, with a simple conversation where everybody's happy. Um, I I adjust to whatever the situation calls for. There are times where I've joked and been like, all right, well, sometimes I'm hired to be a professional bad guy because I got to have the hard conversation. Um, but being able to have those conversations, it's not something everybody's capable of.
Right.
A lot of people buckle with it, and the guys that work for me, I would train them on that, at length, because it was something they would have to do day in, day out. But when you get to real estate, being able to have that hard conversation or being able to pick up the call, knowing that there's bad news on the other side, you're already conditioned for that conversation. So it goes much easier. I've had people say, "Oh man, you look angry and unapproachable," but then when you start talking, you're the polar opposite. Like you're happy, you're upbeat. I would never guess it. So look, I've always been very personable. I can't help that, my face has that RBF look about it, or angry and unapproachable. But no, I mean, look, I always want to see the right outcome come about. I want to see everybody win, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that happens.
How competitive are you to want to win, though?
Oh, I'm extremely competitive. Extremely. I always have been. I internalize a lot, and I don't show my competition outside. But my work ethic, that's a driving force. Like my work ethic, like I've been told from an early age, you're just going to be run of the mill. You're never going to do this. You're never going to do that. And I know it's it's something everybody says, but you want to see me do something? Tell me I can't.
Yeah. And that was the thing, I guess, I was trying to connect with. Overall, again, you're learning from every part of your life and all the things you're doing. But as you transitioned into managerial roles in the beverage business, what were you falling most in love with? What was it? Seeing yourself grow? Was it the competitive nature? What's driving you? What's pushing you? What did you fall in love with so much?
So in the beer business, it was like every day. No day was identical. Yeah. Every day was different. Because your volume, your delivery volume would be different. Your retailers that you were delivering to would be different. The temperament or moods of the people that were employees.
Billy Smith gave you love, by the way. Billy Smith said, "I'm forever grateful for your knowledge that you gave me in the real estate world."
Billy worked at a previous broker that I was at, and Billy is a stand-up neighborhood guy. I'm from Kensington. He's from Fishtown. And we've made a lot of jokes about the whole neighborhood dynamic, because growing up, Fishtown and Kensington were kind of like oil and water, and we make a lot of neighborhood jokes. So Billy recently he got licensed, and the kid, not a kid, he's a grown man. He's a hustler. He puts in the work, and his friend Scott Kelly and a friend of mine that worked for me in the beer business, I got into real estate, Ryan Milburn. Scott and Ryan were both mentees of mine at my last brokerage, and they hustled, and to see them do well now, watch from afar, it's a good thing. The three of those guys are all top notch.
You know what's natural for you, I think you know this about yourself. You're like a massive networker, massive. Like you connect, you have relationships. I mean, it's funny, dude. Like you can't teach that. Right? It's innate, and either you have it or you don't. And you'll see people in our industry, they'll come in and they'll be like, all right, well, where do I start? Right? But for you, it's like, shit, it's my life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look,
I mean,
look, again, in the beer business, it really set me up perfect for this, because, I'm dealing with 100 employees, then I'm dealing with hundreds of retailers, and then I'm dealing with, dozens of sales reps, and then ownership and management. And then, sometimes you're talking to brewery reps, and then shipping and receiving companies. Like, it's a lot of conversation. So, you've got to be able to talk. You've got to be able to be comfortable in whatever room you walk into. And, fortunately, I wasn't really that comfortable starting, but
Russ, you're a kid from Kensington. How do you learn this?
Life experience.
I mean, but that's my whole point, right?
There's no class.
That is my whole point. All of the things that you've done, you've learned from, you've gained from, you've grown from. you've built these relationships that have lasted you, and they're now full circle. And I already know, I don't even have to ask you, when you got into real estate, you just probably tapped the networks hard. I mean, I would imagine, and we're going to get there. But
the opposite, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We will get there in 1 second. But my whole point is that a kid from Kensington out hustles all these people that are completely different walks of life. And again, it's not me trumping you up as much as to say it's a very admirable trait to see you become who you are without having that quote unquote way of coming up. And I'm showing that to people that watch this to say, you can do it too, man. You got to be able to tap into your raw talent, you know?
You know, I talked about Ryan Milburn, my last mentee earlier. You know, I had a conversation with him last December when he decided to get in, and he was a little, reluctant, but we both came to the terms at the end of the conversation. You can overcome anything.
Yeah, man.
Anything.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's cool to see. It really is. So, all right, let's get into some real estate.
All right.
40 minutes in.
40 minutes in.
40 minutes in.
And we just scratched the surface. If you're going to need a weekend for me to get through it.
So, all right, you got your wings. You're confident. You can sell. Talk to me about your entry into the game, man.
So I got licensed and sat on my license for a year. And it was a little before COVID, and I was at a big box brokerage, and I didn't know really how to announce it because everybody had already known me as Russel the beer guy. He was in the beer business. This is what he did. When the neighborhood needed jobs, they called me to try and hire him. So it was I wasn't sure how to reinvent myself, and I knew that it would take time. So I didn't want to be the green agent that comes in and goes, "Hey, I'm here to help you with all your real estate needs." That catchy, lukewarm catch.
Because it's not authentic to you, dude.
It's not. It's so bad.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to do it. So I didn't know how to introduce myself, but I knew that when I did, I wanted to have that skill set and that knowledge that I wasn't asking other people questions, because in my life, I've never had to rely on anybody. And when you get into this business, if you get in with the wrong mentor, they're going to take your money and they're going to have 40, 50 other people that they're doing the same thing to. So you don't get that personal attention that you need. When I met Sheena Dudek, who's another, incredible Opus agent, my neighbor and my friend, I was working in open house, and I had already gotten my, my foundation under me. And she had just got licensed in PA. And she was talking to me about how, she wanted to learn more. I was like, all right, well, I didn't want what happened to her to happen, or what happened to me to happen to her. So within a few days, we were at a bar, and we were going over PA contracts and everything, so that she didn't have to give up her money. And look, I'm trying to follow her lead now because she's unstoppable.
So you got in. Why did you even look at real estate?
I saw some people that I knew that were doing it, and I knew some people early on that were doing it and achieved some success. And while some of them, I knew that they were just destined for it, and it just fit. There were some people that I'm like, that guy's successful, or that person's successful. Like, how? And they were either just not genuine people. They were the used car salesman type. They're still in the business and they're still successful. So hats off to them for, being able to sell bullshit by the pound. That's not how I want to be.
Quote that shit.
That's not how I want to be. I want to be the authentic type, and if that means that I'm polarizing, that's been my life. You either love me because of how direct and loyal and authentic I am, or you hate me because, I'm telling you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear.
Sounds like a good coach, bro. Sounds like a good coach.
There's no point in being in between because it blows up in your face.
So you look towards it, you get in with a big box brokerage, which, and again, I'm not going to say, I don't want to say this in a way that turns people off, because I do business with people from all levels of brokerages. It's not the big box brokerage. It's the lack of mentorship. You can get into the right brokerage as long as you have the right mentor, right? So you didn't have that. You didn't have
no,
that.
I mean, look, when you join these big box brokerages,
yeah,
they're good people. Like, they are really knowledgeable, but because there's so many people under their wing, you become noise. You're not, you don't stand out. And like, where I realized that big box approach was not for me was, I ended up, seeing a coaching email where it was, hey, look, we're going to meet to set goals. And instead of BCCing everybody, they CC'd everybody. And I was already getting irritated with the response time. And I counted, I gave him up a few $1,000s to ask 5 questions during my entire time. And when that BCC came out, or that CC came out, there were somewhere like 60 people in that email. And I go, this makes sense why I'm not getting what I need. And fortunately, I put my head down and tried to learn as much as I could for that first year before announcing. So it really didn't hold me back that much.
All right. So out of that first year, what do you take from it? Did you get any, what did you develop from a skill set perspective? Anything, or was that just,
learning? It was learning contracts. It was, how to navigate through issues as much as I possibly could. But, I'm not the theory guy. I'm practical application. Let me learn. Like, let's jump into it and let me learn on the fly. If I have questions, I'm going to ask. Check my work. Let's go. But I'm not going to sit back and, watch some PowerPoint and then go, oh, that's great. That's not how I learn.
Did you learn lead gen that year? Did you figure out how to generate anything, or not yet?
I mean, look, they gave you the whole perfect world lead gen. But there was somebody that, was at this big box broker that really didn't pull punches. He was like more mindset. And that really appealed to me, because I never wanted to be this guy on social media. And Sheena, even kind of kicked me in the ass before, saying, you need to get past this. I had this like reluctance to be this social media presence. And now, like, I post every single day, and now I'm doing things like this. And like, the big box brokerage actually paid for coaching to help me get past that. So as far as the lead gen end of it, it wasn't what I should have been learning, but I got a little bit. I started observing what everybody else was doing, and, just started replicating and repeating it. Getting a little more aggressive. But, there was a guy, Eddie Fordyce, which, a lot of people know. And Eddie, he said, like, get past it, get out of your mind. And, he started saying, start sending letters and give, like, people share their experiences and, you take from it what you can and, make it work for you. Because everybody does this differently, and, I'm still learning. I'm still evolving. And, I've had a little bit of success, fortunately, and I'm starting to be happy with my brand. But a lot of it comes from guerrilla marketing and that lead gen stuff. I mean, you got to show up, you got to have conversations, you've got to stay top of mind. Unfortunately, in a lot of cases, you've got to spend money. These.
Well, listen, that's not unfortunate. So that's an interesting point, right? Broke money will make money.
It's unfortunate for people who get into the business thinking that it's easy and that the only cost that they're going to have to spend is their schooling and their monthly fees. Like, it's a lot more than that.
How the hell are you going to generate millions of dollars in business? I mean, no offense, but like, you're competing against tons and tons and tons of noise, and it's a business.
It's saturated as hell.
It is a business. Do people get lucky? Yeah, but that luck lasts a certain period of time, and if you want to keep going, you have to learn. You have to learn. I always tell people, and it's true, you do 2 things: you do what you do, and you tell people you do what you do.
Absolutely.
Things.
It's a law of averages. So you got to keep having more conversations and get in front of people. So whatever you can do to stay top of mind, do it. Like, if you're nervous about it, or you're hesitant, scared money don't make money. Like,
scared money don't make money. And Russ, you know what's funny? I'm a lender, you know that. And people don't realize the cost of doing business, right?
Never.
When you look at it, it's hilarious to me. When I first got into this, I'm like, I'm gonna sell loans. No idea what the hell I was selling. Not a friggin' clue. Not at all. I'm out there doing whatever. And everyone, I got a lender. It takes so much time and effort and money to build inroads, right?
Yeah.
And to grow your business. And if you don't have the skin for that, you shouldn't be self-employed. That's business. That's business.
Look, everybody hits you with, oh, it's great. You can make your own schedule and all that. Yeah, well, you get to sleep at night.
Exactly, bro. Exactly. And do you get obsessed with it? And does it become in our blood? Yeah, because we're sick. Yeah. But that's what's
Yeah.
All right. So you get out of that first year. So tell me when stuff starts to click for you. What are you doing to make it click? Like, are you intentional with your days, your weeks, your months? Give me that whole thing. Give me the evolution of your business.
Early on, I kind of fell for the whole, working for yourself trap where you get to work from home and all that. And, I'd wake up with all the best of intentions. And, I thank God it was post-COVID because, you could sell a shoebox for, in 12 hours. So that kept money in my pocket. But slowly but surely, again, just trying to be observant, I started to realize my day-to-day processes were not working. Because I would wake up, I'd fill out, I'd write 5 cards out, stuff a couple envelopes, make a social media post, and then watch SportsCenter for the next 2 hours and drink a pot of coffee. That was not intent. That was just, pretending that I was doing the right stuff, and it wasn't. So, a very good friend a good friend of mine and a previous broker, he said, you got to treat it like a 9-to-5. And, over the past 2.5 years, I really started to tailor my processes and wake up with intent and follow some sort of structure. And, my business, since I've implemented structure and not just kind of winging it, has really taken off.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you're always going to go through peaks and valleys. Nobody's going to have 5 deals a day. And, the days that you don't have 5 deals a day, you're sweating, your heart's pounding, even though from a grand scheme, you're okay. But in your head as a business owner where, other people who work 9-to-5s get to sleep at night, we don't. It's always that, anxiety coming into play. How do I build better? How do I do more?
But it's the same shit that keeps us addicted.
Exactly. I think about, I still talk to a lot of guys in the beer business, and they're like, oh, would you ever consider going back? And I'll throw out some ridiculous number. And then I think about it after I said it, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to give it up. I don't want to give it up.
So, all right. So what is the 9-to-5 routine look like for you now? Like, what does that routine look like for you to generate activity?
The 9-to-5 is probably more 24/7. There is no 9-to-5.
Well, okay, the theoretical 9-to-5. Yeah.
I mean, look, a lot of it is, I knew that working from home, works for some people. It doesn't work for me. I fall into a trap. So I know that every single day I've got to be up at 6:30 at the very latest. I've got to get up. I've got to get moving. And I've got to get out of the house. So I am the in-office type. I drop my son off at school and then I'm moving. Depending on what my schedule looks like, it's either gym in the morning or gym later in the evening.
You don't look like you work out. I'm surprised.
Not at all.
You barely pull the arm of it.
I just show up. I show up with a tripod and stand there and film videos. That's how I get over.
Are you making fun of me? No.
I mean, a lot of it is follow-up. A lot of it is marketing. A lot of it is emails. Making sure that your systems are in place. And every day, like the beer business, every day is different. So it's how do you manage that, and how do you manage what's in front of you? And as I said earlier, like everybody does this differently. And what works for me is getting up, being out, being present, and making sure that I'm sending text messages. Making sure that my SEO stuff is in order. I'm making sure that I'm answering leads, that I'm following, how my deals are processing. The people that, I'm dealing with, making sure that they're happy. You have to keep them in because they'll never refer you. And all it takes on your Google reviews is one bad review because nobody focuses on the positive. They focus on that little negative. So it is, it's a balancing act. Every day is different, but every day is getting up and getting in front of people that is the constant.
So what are the goals? What are the next steps look like for you?
So I have, I'm currently in my broker's course. So that's in the immediate future, hopefully at some point by summer. So getting that, but as far as, business, it's scaling up, it's building that brand to get to the next level, and it's learning how to get there. It's doing what it takes, investing the money, investing the time, and getting to that next level. And, it's also helping people along the way. You got a lot of people, I'm probably butchering the quote, but if you're fortunate to get to the top floor, it's your responsibility to send the elevator back down.
I like that. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to be the coach or, whatever, but like, if I can give somebody some insight and, a tip on, how to improve. Not that I'm perfect or not that I'm the best in the business, but, I'm working to get there. If I can help somebody else out, I will, and I don't want anything for it. And that's where I think, I try to differ.
But
everybody wants something in return.
But the difference too is you're only going to offer it if you fully have something to offer, right? You're not full of BS, unlike a lot of other people who would find ways to financially gain, whether it benefited you or not, right?
Yeah.
And that's a big difference, man. That's a big difference. The authenticity is something I really get from you. If I were to say one thing out of this whole interview, it's you are authentic. You're Russ. You're going to always be Russ, whether they like it or not. And the fact that you are who you are is because of that. And, I think the one thing that, I think very intriguing about you is that you're doing things with intent, because you've learned them and know they work, right? You're willing to learn and adapt and grow, which is good. That's the hardest part, dude. It really is. Like getting uncomfortable, taking risks so that you can scale and you can grow. That's the hardest part, because you're like, oh shit, this is working. What do I need to do more of that for, right? And that's cool. That is an enviable trait to have, man. It really, really is.
Like I said earlier, I'm smart enough to know that I don't know everything.
Yeah, that's dope, dude. Well, before I let you go, I would be doing us a disservice to not mention that you are a finalist for a big award in the city of Philadelphia, a real estate award. Can you give us a little insight about that?
I mean, look, there's a lot of great agents on this list, and it's the Philadelphia Inquirer's Philly Favorites, the realtor category. I'm a 2-time finalist, and fingers crossed. Maybe I don't know. I'm hoping not to be a finalist this time.
Well, we wish you well, man. But look, your journey's awesome. I love it. And how long you been doing this?
6 years.
6 years. It's awesome, man. Well, I mean, would you? Oh, you know what? One last question.
Look, I got all the time in the world. Like
it's fine. One last question for your son, right? And advice, and obviously the daughter too. But your son, because just of the boxing. And
I got to mention my daughter, who is.
Yeah.
Look, my daughter is a 17-year-old at Abington High School. She is smart, intelligent, and just about the sweetest thing. And she's changed my life.
That's awesome. And was that junior? Junior?
Yeah, she's a junior.
Oh man, college, here we come, huh?
Now you know why I'm trying to scale the business up so quickly.
I went to Lower Moreland, man, right next to Abington, so I know the whole thing. I know the whole game. So, are you letting your kids get into real estate? What's your take on that?
I mean, look, I don't want to be the guy pushing them in a direction. I want them to find, what their course is, and my daughter, she's got some ideas, and they're both, the academic approach. She's got a couple colleges that she's entertaining. I'm not gonna put her business out there because she might get mad at me. But if they want to be entrepreneurs, I'm gonna support it. I don't know if they would entertain real estate because they're both already on the course. The course to being smarter than me. So I don't know if they would choose it, but if they want to be entrepreneurs, then I'm going to support it. And I would love to be able to give them the guidance, at least to cope with the anxiety that comes along with it. But I think I think that they're both going to do a lot better than I am.
That's awesome. Well, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. All right. So for the people out there that want to want to use your real estate services, how can they get a hold of you, my friend?
Call or text 215-290-0559. Inbox me. I'm not hard to find on social media. Everything is public, so keep the DMs kid friendly. Don't be a weirdo. And then, my website is, since I recently joined Opus. My website's under construction, but should be live as of next week, which is kubachsells.com.
KubachSells.com. I love it. Well, thank you, sir. You will definitely be a repeat, and I hopefully.
We have a lot more to cover. I'm ready when you are. I mean, we'll get a couple Guinnesses in front of us and finish it offline.
And hopefully we will have some good news in the future about that award, my friend.
Well, fingers crossed. We'll find out April 20th.
All right. Well, thank everyone for watching another edition of the Superstars Podcast. You can follow us on YouTube at Superstars Podcast. Till the next time, interviewing the biggest, baddest, and best in the real estate industry, I'm Chad Levine signing off. Peace. And we are ending the stream. Come on, baby.